My hand trembled on the doorknob, frozen in place. Literally frozen. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Through the ceiling above me, his voice drifted down. My husband. The man I'd loved for 8 years. The man I'd trusted with everything. My heart, my life, my family's legacy. Yeah, she just left for the airport, he said, his tone casual. Almost cheerful. The stupid bitch actually believed the Paris story. Can you believe it? Laughter. His laughter. The same laugh that used to make my stomach flutter now made it turn to ice. I should have kept driving to the airport. Should have been on that plane to Paris for the business conference. But I'd forgotten my passport. Such a simple mistake. Such a catastrophic one. No, don't worry, he continued, and I could hear him pacing in our bedroom. Our bedroom. Where we'd made love just this morning. Where he'd kissed me goodbye and told me he'd miss me. By the time she gets back in 3 days, it'll all be done. The papers are ready. Her mother's house will be in foreclosure by Friday. The old bat won't even know what hit her. My mother's house. The family home. The only thing my dying father had left us. My knees buckled, but I caught myself against the wall, my designer luggage toppling over with a soft thud on the marble floor. My pulse hammered in my ears so loudly I almost missed his next words. Almost. And the best part? She signed everything herself. Every single document. She actually thanked me for handling the family finances. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice dripped with venom I'd never heard before. After all these years of pretending to love that frigid, boring woman, I'm finally going to get what I deserve. What we both deserve, baby. Baby. He was talking to someone else. Someone he called baby. The floor tilted beneath my feet. 8 years of marriage. 8 years of my life. And I'd never known this man at all. But as I stood there in the foyer of our $1 million home, the home I'd bought with my inheritance, my shock began to crystallize into something else. Something cold. Something sharp. Something deadly. I picked up my fallen luggage without a sound. My hands were no longer shaking. My breath came steady and measured. Because I'd just realized something important. He didn't know I was here. He thought I was on my way to Paris. Which meant I had 3 days. 3 days while he thought I was gone. 3 days to find out everything. 3 days to plan. 3 days to destroy the man who'd destroyed me. I backed out of that door silently, closed it with a soft click, and got back in my car. But I wasn't going to the airport anymore. I was going to war. Before we continue, please write in the comment which country you are watching this video. We love knowing where our global family is tuning in from. And if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Your support helps us bring even more epic revenge tales of life. Enjoy listening. Let me take you back. Back to before the world shattered. Back to when I was stupid enough to be happy. My name is Emma Catherine Westfield. 32 years old. CEO of Westfield Analytics, a data security firm my father founded 20 years ago. After he died 3 years ago, I'd taken over, building it from a small regional company into a national powerhouse. We were worth $43 million. Not bad for a girl who'd graduated college with a literature degree and learned business from the ground up. I met Thomas Bennett at a charity gala 8 years ago. He was handsome in that classic way. Tall, dark hair always perfectly styled, blue eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He worked in real estate development, he told me. Not wildly successful but comfortable. Ambitious. He was charming. Kind of. He made me laugh after years of drowning in grief over my father's death. He listened when I talked about the pressure of running the company. He rubbed my feet after long days. He never made me feel like I was too much or not enough. We dated for 2 years before he proposed on a beach in Santorini, the sunset painting everything gold and pink. I cried when I said yes. Happy tears. God, I was so naive. The wedding was beautiful. 300 guests at the Hillcrest estate. My mother walked me down the aisle because Dad couldn't. Thomas cried when he saw me in my dress. He'd written his own vows. Promised to love me, cherish me, protect me for all our days. I believed every word. The first few years were good. Really good, I thought. We bought the house on Riverside Drive. 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, a view of the city that took your breath away. I paid for most of it, but Thomas contributed what he could from his real estate deals. He said he wanted to pull his weight even though I made more money. I loved him for that. For his pride. His independence. What a joke. He was attentive to my mother, which I treasured. After Dad died, she'd struggled. Depression, anxiety, the weight of losing her partner of 35 years. Thomas would visit her, help her with house repairs, manage her bills when things got complicated. "Let me handle it," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "You have enough on your plate with the company. I'll take care of your mom." I've been so grateful. So relieved to have someone share the burden. I never questioned why he needed my mother to sign papers. Power of attorney, he'd explained. Just in case something happened and we needed to make medical decisions. Smart, I'd thought. Responsible. I never questioned why he'd taken such an interest in the family finances. When he'd suggested consolidating our accounts, streamlining our investments, I'd agreed readily. He was good with numbers after all. And I trusted him. Got that word. Trust. It's such a fragile thing, isn't it? Like a priceless vase you build your whole life around, never realizing it's already been cracked, just waiting for the right moment to shatter completely. The cracks had been there all along. I just hadn't looked close enough. I didn't go to the airport. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks from our house and parked in the back where my car couldn't be seen from the street. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Emma. Thomas believed I was on a plane to Paris. The conference was real. I'd been planning to attend for months. 3 days of meetings, networking, presentations. I'd talked about it for weeks. But now I had something more important to do. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and called my assistant, Rebecca. She answered on the first ring. "Emma, aren't you supposed to be boarding?" "Change of plans," I said, keeping my voice steady through sheer force of will. "I need you to do something for me and I need you not to ask questions. Can you do that?" Pause. Rebecca had worked for me for 5 years. She was sharp, loyal, and could read me better than almost anyone. "Of course," she said quietly. "What do you need?" "Call the conference organizers. Tell them I've had a family emergency and can't attend. Then I need you to cover for me at the office. Tell everyone I'm still at the conference, attending as planned. If anyone asks about me, I'm in Paris. Unreachable except by email." "Emma, what's?" "Please, Rebecca. I'll explain everything soon. But right now, I need you to trust me." Another pause, longer this time. "Hey, you're in Paris." "Got it. Thank you," I whispered. "I'll call you in a day or two." I hung up before she could ask more questions. Next call, my mother. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding tired. "Emma, sweetheart, I thought you were flying to Paris today." Mom. I'm at the airport now." The lie tasted bitter but necessary. "Listen, I need to ask you something. Those papers Thomas has been helping you with, the financial stuff, do you have copies?" "Oh, well, Thomas has everything organized in a folder. He said it was safer to keep it all in one place." "Why?" My stomach dropped. "Mom, I need you to do something for me. Do you have any bank statements? Anything showing your accounts?" "I haven't checked in a while, honey. Thomas said everything was fine, all handled. He's been such a help, you know. I don't know what I'd do without him taking care of these things." I closed my eyes, fighting back the wave of nausea. "Mom, I need you to go to the bank tomorrow. First thing. Ask for a complete statement of all your accounts. And check on the house. Make sure the mortgage is current." "Emma, what's this about? Is something wrong?" I couldn't tell her. Not yet. Not until I knew everything. "Just being cautious, Mom. You know how I am about finances. Please, just do this for me." She agreed, worry tinging her voice, but she trusted me. Unlike me, she still had good instincts about who to trust. After we hung up, I sat in that parking lot and made a list on my phone. Everything I needed to find out. Every document I needed to see. Every truth I needed to uncover. Thomas's phone records. Our bank accounts, all of them. My mother's financial records. Thomas's real estate business. Was it even real? The woman he'd called baby. What papers I'd supposedly signed. What was happening Friday to my mother's house. The conference ended Sunday night. It was Wednesday afternoon. I had 4 days before Thomas expected me home. 4 days to become someone I'd never been before. A detective, a spy, a woman with nothing left to lose. I started the car and drove to the one place I knew Thomas would never look for me. My best friend Veronica's lake house, 2 hours north of the city. She was in Japan on vacation for 2 weeks. I had a key. It was time to start digging. The lake house was exactly what I needed. Isolated, quiet, with strong internet and zero chance of running into anyone who knew me. I let myself in, dropped my luggage in the guest room and set up my laptop on the kitchen table. Then I began to excavate my life. First stop, our bank accounts. I had access to everything, or so I thought. I logged into our joint checking account. The balance looked normal. $34,000. Our savings account, $215,000. But something nagged at me. I pulled up the transaction history and started scrolling. Regular deposits from my company salary. Normal expenses. Groceries, utilities, mortgage. Everything looked fine. Too fine. I'd learned in business that when something looks perfect, it's usually hiding something rotten underneath. I went back further. 6 months. A year. 2 years. There. Small transfers. 2,000 here. 1,500 there. Always to an account I didn't recognize. The amounts were small enough that I'd never noticed. We had plenty of money after all. But over 2 years, those small transfers added up. I did the math 3 times, sure I'd made a mistake. $347,000. Gone. My vision blurred. That was my money. Money I'd earned. Money I'd transferred into our joint account because we were married, we were partners, we were supposed to be building a life together. I grabbed a notebook and wrote down the account number the money had been transferred to. Then I kept digging. Our investment accounts next. Thomas had suggested consolidating them 2 years ago, moving everything to a new firm with better returns. I'd been busy with a major client acquisition and had barely glanced at the paperwork before signing. I logged into the investment portal. The main page showed our portfolio value, $1.2 million. But when I drilled down into the actual holdings, my blood ran cold. The account was in Thomas's name only. My name appeared nowhere. Despite the fact that 90% of that money had come from my inheritance, my salary, my bonuses. I checked the documents I'd signed. There, in legal language I'd been too busy and too trusting to parse carefully. I'd transferred full ownership to Thomas, with me listed as a beneficiary only in the event of his death. I'd signed away over $1 million. My hands shook so badly I had to set down my coffee before I spilled it. How had I been so stupid? But I knew how. Because I'd loved him. Because I'd trusted him. Because when you love someone, you don't read the fine print on every document they put in front of you. You sign where they tell you to sign, and you believe them when they say it's in your best interest. What a fool I'd been. I forced myself to keep going. My mother's accounts next. It took some doing. I wasn't officially on her accounts, but I had her social security number and enough personal information to get through the bank security questions. Technically illegal probably, but I was past caring about technicalities. My mother's checking account had $1,200 in it. That was wrong. So wrong. My mother had inherited $300,000 when my father died, plus his life insurance. She'd always been frugal, careful with money. There should have been at least $200,000 left. I checked her savings account. Zero balance. The account had been closed 3 months ago. All funds transferred out. I pulled up the mortgage records for her house. The house I'd grown up in, where my father had carried me over the threshold when they brought me home from the hospital, where I'd learned to ride a bike in the driveway and had my first kiss on the porch. The house was in foreclosure. The bank had filed papers 2 weeks ago. Foreclosure auction scheduled for Friday. This Friday. 2 days away. My mother had no idea. Thomas had intercepted all the notices, no doubt. Told her everything was fine. And she'd believed him because he was her son-in-law, because he'd been so helpful, because she trusted him. Just like I had. I ran to the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left but bile and rage. After I'd cleaned myself up and drunk some water, I returned to my laptop with a new focus. The woman. The one he'd called baby. Thomas's phone records would tell me everything, but I didn't have access to them. Or did I? We were on a family plan. I was the primary account holder. I pulled up our cellular provider's website and logged in. Bingo. I could see every call, every text, every bit of data usage for both our lines. I downloaded Thomas's records for the past year and opened the file with trembling hands. One number appeared over and over and over again. Multiple calls per day. Texts at all hours. The pattern went back 18 months. 18 months. A year and a half of lies. I ran the number through a reverse lookup service. It came back as belonging to a Melissa Hartley, age 28, address in the expensive Waterford Towers downtown. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. 28. 4 years younger than me. I pulled up her social media. She was beautiful. Blonde, thin, perfect smile. Her Instagram was full of luxury, designer bags, expensive restaurants, exotic vacations. Her bio said she was a lifestyle influencer. I scrolled through her photos with morbid fascination. There, a picture from 4 months ago. Champagne glasses at sunset. The caption, "Best view in the city with my favorite person." You couldn't see who she was with, but in the reflection of the window behind her, I could just make out a man's silhouette. Oh, dark hair. Thomas. I kept scrolling. More photos. A hand holding hers across a dinner table. I recognized Thomas's watch. A shadow in the background of a beach photo. The same beach where we'd vacationed last summer, or so I'd thought. He told me it was a real estate conference in Miami. How many lies? How many times had he looked me in the eye and told me he loved me while he was planning this? Planning to steal everything and leave me with nothing? But I still didn't understand the full picture. As he was cheating. As he was stealing. But there was something more. Something in that phone call I'd overheard. After all these years of pretending to love that frigid, boring woman, I'm finally going to get what I deserve. What we both deserve. What we both deserve. Thomas and Melissa. This wasn't just an affair. This was a plan. They were planning something together. I needed to know what. And I needed to know now. I grabbed my phone and called the one person I knew could help me. My college roommate, Jade, who'd become a private investigator after graduating. Emma. How's Paris? Everyone thought I was in Paris. Jade, I need your help. And I need you to keep this completely confidential. Of course. What's going on? I told her everything. The overheard phone call. The stolen money. Melissa. The foreclosure on my mother's house. By the time I finished, I was crying, the words tumbling out in a rush of pain and fury. Jesus Christ, Jade breathed. Emma, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me. I need to know everything. What they're planning. How deep this goes. Everything. Hey, let me make some calls. I have contacts who can access records I can't. Give me until tomorrow morning. Where are you? I told her about the lake house. Stay there. Don't contact Thomas. Don't let him know you know anything. Can you do that? Yes. My voice was steel now. The tears had stopped. I can do that. Good. I'll call you tomorrow with what I find. After we hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness of the lake house and watched the sun set over the water. The sky bled red and orange, beautiful and violent at the same time. I thought about the woman I'd been this morning. Happy, naive, trusting. That woman was dead. The woman sitting here now was someone new. Someone harder. Someone who knew exactly what the world was capable of. And someone who was going to make them pay. Jade called at 7 a.m. the next morning. I'd barely slept, my mind spinning with scenarios and plans and rage. I've got it, she said without preamble. And Emma, it's worse than you thought. Tell me everything. Thomas Bennett isn't even his real name. He's Thomas Bradley Kane. He's got a record, fraud, embezzlement. Served 3 years in prison 7 years ago. He got out, changed his name legally, created a whole new identity. The coffee I just sipped turned to acid in my stomach. What? His real estate business? Doesn't exist. Never has. The office he said he worked at? He rented a virtual office space for $50 a month. Every dollar he's had for the past 8 years came from you. 8 years. Our entire relationship. All of it a lie from the very first moment. What about Melissa? Melissa Hartley. She's his partner. And I mean business partner. They've run this scam before. Twice that I can confirm. Thomas meets a wealthy woman, usually someone vulnerable in some way. He romances her, marries her, slowly gains access to her finances. Then he and Melissa systematically drain everything. By the time the woman figures it out, they're gone. The other women, what happened to them? Jade's silence was heavy. One declared bankruptcy and lost everything. The other, Emma, she killed herself. 2 years ago. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. He was a predator. A con artist. And I'd let him into my life, my home, my family. There's more, Jade continued. The papers you signed? Some of them transferred ownership of Westfield Analytics. What? I jumped to my feet, phone clutched to my ear. That's impossible. I would have noticed. He forged documents. Made it look like a corporate restructuring for tax purposes. Your lawyers probably have the real paperwork. But Thomas filed fraudulent documents with the state showing him as majority owner. If he files those with your board of directors and they don't realize they're fake, he could potentially execute a hostile takeover of your own company. My company. My father's legacy. The one thing I had left of him. When? I whispered. The paperwork is dated for next Monday. The day after you're supposed to get back from Paris. It all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. While I was supposed to be in Paris, Thomas would finalize the foreclosure on my mother's house, probably buying it himself for pennies on the dollar through a shell company. He'd drain the last of our accounts. And then the day after I got home, he'd present the fraudulent paperwork to my board, take over my company and kick me out. I'd be left with nothing. No money, no home, no company. My mother would be homeless. And Thomas and Melissa would disappear with everything I'd spent my life building. Emma? Emma, are you still there? I'm here. My voice sounded strange. Distant. Calm. I'm sending you everything I found. Documents, photos, evidence. It's all there. You need to go to the police. We can stop this. Thank you, Jade. Send me everything. You're going to the police, right? Emma. I'll handle it. Thank you for everything. I hung up before she could protest. The police. Yes, I could go to the police. Thomas would be arrested. He'd probably go back to prison. I might recover some of the money, might save my company. But might wasn't good enough. In prison was too easy. Too clean. He tried to destroy my entire life. Stolen from my dying mother. Driven another woman to suicide. The police would give him 3 to 5 years, maybe. He'd get out and do it again to someone else. No. I wanted him destroyed. Completely. Utterly. The way he'd planned to destroy me. I wanted revenge. And I was going to get it. I spent the next 12 hours planning. Not just any plan, a perfect one. Every detail mapped out. Every contingency considered. Thomas thought he was the con artist. I was about to show him what a real strategist could do. Step 1. Secure my assets. I called my corporate lawyer, Gerald, on his cell phone. I need you to do something for me immediately. Don't ask questions. Emma? What's... Gerald. Trust me. Please. Pause. What do you need? There are fraudulent corporate documents that may have been filed with the state showing a transfer of ownership of Westfield Analytics. I need you to file an injunction immediately preventing any change in corporate ownership. Today. Right now. That's highly unusual. I have reason to believe someone is attempting corporate fraud. Please, Gerald. I'll explain everything when I can, but right now I need this done. Another pause. I'll file within the hour. Thank you. And Gerald? This stays between us. No one else can know. Next, I called my bank. Moved all the money from our joint accounts into a new account in my name only at a different bank. All of it, every penny. If Thomas checked, he'd see empty accounts. Let him panic. Then I called my mother's bank. Explained that my mother was a victim of financial fraud, that I was her daughter and had evidence of the crime. They couldn't stop the foreclosure without police involvement, but they could delay it. I sent them some of the documents Jade had provided showing Thomas's real identity and criminal history. The foreclosure auction was postponed pending investigation. My mother's house was safe. For now. Step 2. Gather more evidence. I needed to get into our house without Thomas knowing. Needed to find the original documents, any other evidence of his plans. But how? Then I remembered. Thomas played golf every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Regular as clockwork. He'd be gone for at least 4 hours. Perfect. Step 3. The revenge. This was the part 1 savored. The part 1 planned with cold, methodical precision. I wasn't just going to expose Thomas. I was going to destroy him so completely he'd wish he'd never heard my name. And I was going to use his own playbook to do it. Thursday morning, I watched our house from down the street. At 8:47 a.m., Thomas emerged in his golf clothes, loaded his clubs into his car,